Welcome to the United States, and I hope you don't... I completely lost my train of thought. Hi everybody, my name is Chloe. I am a third year at University of Chicago, double majoring in economics and data science, and I'm here today telling you, international student to international student, what are the key things that you need to prepare before you come to the United States. Now, there are a lot of videos out there about like things you should know, cultural differences. This is not that type of video. I thought I would be, a bit of a big sister, tiger mama role and give you a complete breakdown of everything technical, adulting, boring that you are gonna need to know before you come to the United States. Thank you to Notion for sponsoring today's video, and I used Notion to create a comprehensive International Student Guide 101 to the United States. So I will link this in the description down below. This is a template that you can copy and paste to your own workspace on Notion. It's completely free, sign up is free, everything is free. All of the information on here are things that I think will truly help you. So I have things like visa application, insurance, how to get a social security number, working in the United States, taxes, driver's license for international students. So if you want to see all of the information I compiled with like links and photos and tables and everything, check out down below. And once again, thank you to Notion for sponsoring today's video. The first thing I wanted to get out of the way is visa application. So if you are coming to the United States, you're probably on an F1 visa. So the F1 visa is a non-immigrant visa. It means that you're an alien in the United States. Usually the duration of your F1 visa is however long you're here to study for, right? So in my case, I go to UChicago, 4-year institution. My visa lasts like 4 years, I think like one more, give or take. It depends on my situation because I took a gap year. If you click into the visa application page on the Notion, you will see that I have a bunch of documents there for you. So the first one is an overview of all of the steps. So if you want like a quick 6-step guide to how to get your visa, this is it for you. And if you want each step to be broken down into more details, just like official websites and links, also on this page. So step 1 is to get accepted by an institution. Hopefully that one's the easiest part, or not. Regardless, you should be here, so you should be fine. Second step is you will be enrolled into the Student and Exchange Visitor Program, so the SEVP. Fancy name, not super important, other than the fact that you need to know these words, Form I-901 SEVIS. And basically what this means is that this is a fee that you need to pay this exchange program that's governed by the United States government that will allow you as an exchange to like study here. And then, very importantly, ultimately you will return to your home country, okay? So you need to pay this fee. For F1 visas, it's $350. I know, but it's a one-time fee and everyone just has to pay it. But before you pay this fee, there's another step you need to take, which is you need to get the I-20, which arguably is the most important document other than your passport that you'll have. So the I-20 is basically a certificate, a form issued to you by your university or your institution that has your SEVIS, right? The SEVIS ID on it. It has your like location, it has the school fees that you need to pay, it has your like name and all of your information. And this is what customs, like US customs will check every time you come in and out of the country. So always have this with you. So how do you get one? That one's actually pretty easy. After you get into your university, someone from the admissions office will probably contact you and they'll ask for your address, etc., etc. Give them your address and they will ship the I-20 to you. They will also issue you a digital copy, probably, but you need the physical copy. Why? Because you need that actual ink signature in order for border customs to like, okay, this is valid. So you need to wait for the physical copy. So a little horror story. When I first got into UChicago, my I-20 got completely lost. It's like partially my fault, partially not. So I had a different address on file because I'm a Singaporean citizen. So I put my like IC address, but I live in Shanghai. So the admissions office got 2 addresses and they mixed that up and they sent it to Singapore. So it took like a month or a month and a half to send them to Singapore. And I was like, I didn't get it. And they were like, oh, is this the address? I'm like, no, that's not, I'm not there. So they had to resend it to me. So the entire process took like 3 months and it was very grueling. So I highly recommend you, if it is an option, to get tracking like FedEx or USPS or DHL, something to track this document. So you'll have to pay for the tracking, but I guarantee you it's worth it. After you receive your physical I-20 document, then you can get started, right? On it will be the SEVIS number that I previously mentioned. You use that number, you go to the website, you pay the $350. After that, they'll send you a confirmation page saying like, yay, you paid us money, welcome. And then you will have to print that out. I also have all of these steps on the Notion, by the way. You'll print it out and then you bring this, the printout of the payment. You bring your I-20 and you bring your passport and you bring a list of other documents that I've also included and done the research for you. And you go to your local US embassy, consulate, and you schedule an F1 visa meeting. So I'm gonna skip over all of the steps of like all the stuff that you're gonna have to bring to this meeting, but there's one thing I wanted to highlight. This F1 visa is assuming that you will return to your home country after you graduate. They do not assume that you want to work here. So if you have any documents that are like assets that your family own, or you're like where your family is based, your family home that is outside the United States, bring that, because they want to let people in on an F1 visa knowing that they will probably go back. Whether or not you want to do that, it's up to you, but you need to make this point clear during the interview. You have to have this mindset, okay? That's basically it for visa application. This entire process should be about 3 months, maybe lesser, because it'll take like a month to 2 depending on where you are to get your I-20, and then assuming you pay the SEVIS fee, etc. immediately, and then it'll take a little longer to like schedule your embassy, and then it'll take another 2 to 3 weeks for them to give you your F1 visa that you'll probably have to pick up as well. So if you don't live near an embassy or a consulate, it's gonna suck. I don't know how these regulations might change with COVID. They may not be doing in-person pickups anymore, but I'm not super sure, so please check out your local office. That's all the information about visa, so woohoo! We all now have an F1 visa, yay! All right, let's move on to the second one, which is insurance. It's a bit of a smaller topic. If you don't know how insurance works in the US, in the insurance page on the Notion, I also have a couple of videos that I think would be super important. I also have a lot of documents, such as like how most insurance packages work, some popular international student insurance options. None of these are sponsored by insurance companies. These are things that I found that I think are valid. Things to be careful of, and about university insurance packages. So I'm gonna start there. UChicago, as well as probably whatever institution you're at, does offer a insurance package from the university. I think it's called UShip at UChicago. It sounds like a pretty good idea. The only problem here is that it's a tad bit expensive. So the UChicago one, for example, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it is $1,400 a quarter, which means a year will be more than $4,000, which is a lot. So the first thing I did, and UChicago offers this, I'm pretty sure your institution does as well, they allow you to waive this insurance. And this is where this document comes in, which is you can buy another insurance package in the United States, and then if you submit that form to your university, they'll look at it and be like, okay, you don't need to buy our university program, you got your own, all right? So usually these other packages will be a lot cheaper. So obviously if you have any like healthcare issues or concerns and you want to go for it, there are different premium plans, there are different like tiers that you can buy into, but the one I personally use is by PSI Insurance. Again, not sponsored. I think I use the Ruby plan, which should be around, I think after taxes, I think is around $800 a year, which is still a lot, but compared to $4,000, it's like, gee, which one do I pick? There are also a lot of other options that I have put on the Notion. Check the Notion page if you want to know more options. The next one, and this is the biggest topic that I'm going to cover here, what I'm going to be talking about is how to get a social security number. Here are some benefits to getting a social security number. If you don't know, it's basically like the US national identification number. It's like the Singapore, you call it IC, in the US is an SSN, so social security number. Basically, if you want access to credit cards, most credit cards, I will tell you, require a social security number. Not like a 60% most, more like a 90% most. If you want to get a driver's license, you need a social security number. If you want to get employed, we'll get to that. But if you want to get employed much more easily, you need a social security number. If you want to register for like PayPal business, if you want to trade in the US, right? If you want to use Robinhood, you want to trade like stocks or like Bitcoin or crypto, anything like that, you need a social security number. Now, how do you get one? Here's the part where it gets a little bit tricky, all right? So when you first arrive in the United States, they start tracking you basically, right? They note the date that you've come in and your I-20 goes into action, etc., etc. After this point happens, what you need to do is you can either get on-campus employment, which means your university recruits you and employs you. So this can be like librarian, you can work at a coffee shop on campus, you can work as a tour guide, you can work in the career advancement office. Anywhere that is employed by the university, you are legally allowed to be employed. Okay? The reasoning is because the university is on your I-20, they sponsored you already, so you can work here. The minute you touch ground in the United States, you can apply for a job at your university. So the good thing about that is that once you are employed, and only when you are employed, can you get a social security number, or at least can you start the process. So the process itself is not that complicated, but say, for example, the university employs you. You get a letter from whichever department employs you saying, I employed this person for how many hours a week, and this is how much we're paying them, and et cetera, this is what the position is. And then you have to go talk to the office, whichever reach out to you about the I-20. In UChicago, it's called the Office of International Affairs, but it will depend on your, I think it's called International Affairs or International Admissions. It'll depend on your school, but something that sounds like that. You have to talk to them, and they will be like, okay, here's an SSN letter, okay? And then, this is the key one, you need to take this SSN letter, and you need to take this employment contract, basically. And you need to bring 2 of these, along with your I-20, your passport, and I think like your university like admissions letter or like something like that. You go and make an appointment at your local Social Security office. This will depend on what state you're in. I know, it's very annoying and a little bit scary, but you have to do it. After you do that, you go in, they'll review all your documents, and then if you're approved, they'll start the process of getting you an SSN, and you'll probably receive it in 2 weeks. This entire process would take around, I would say give it like a month, maybe a month and a half to 2 months during COVID if you want to be safe, but it will be pretty lengthy. It's also important to note that most jobs, especially the ones on campus, will require you to have an SSN before you start the job. That was the case for me, and that will probably be the case for you. I have heard of some instances where they allow you to be in the process of receiving one, which means you need to have that initial like Social Security number meeting with the state, and then you can start your job. That's basically it for the first method, which is if you want to get it immediately. But let's say you don't want to work on campus. I want to study and then I want to get an internship. For UChicago, there is something called a Metcalf internship, which means that if you are employed by a company, right, not affiliated with Chicago, a company in Chicago, New York, wherever, you can take your internship, go to the UChicago Career Advancement office, and they will turn it into a Metcalf internship for you. So basically, it becomes a university-affiliated program, and that way, you can get OPT or CPT a lot easier. The other way is if you just directly am employed by them, in which case then, first of all, congratulations. But second of all, it's probably gonna be really hard because most of these companies, in the first step of their application process, they're gonna ask you, will you require sponsorship for this employment opportunity? And if you're an international student, you're gonna have to check yes. And that greatly decreases your chances of getting employed because it's a big hassle for the company and they have a limited number of things that they can sponsor, and it's a big process in general. They're more incentivized to hire US citizens than international students. That's just a fact. You have to be on campus for a year. You have to be in the United States on campus for 1 year, fully enrolled in your school for 1 year before you can do any of this, okay? The Social Security number method for on-campus employment, so employed by university, works the minute you arrive in the US. But for OPT, CPT, for internships, you need to wait a year, okay? 1 year. And then you can qualify for either OPT or CPT. There are some nuanced differences between them, and I will read out the exact definitions because I don't want to mislead anybody. So OPT is optional practical training. It is temporary employment authorization for F1 students in degree programs to gain experience in jobs directly related to their major area of study. You get up to 12 months of OPT. So what that means is that, or say you're graduating, right? You want to stay in the US for an extra year before you apply for a work visa, like an H-1B visa or anything like that. Then you apply for an OPT, they give you up to 12 months. If you use OPT earlier on, it counts in your 12 months. It's not 12 months consecutively, it's 12 months in total. The other one is curricular practical training. It is an option for unpaid or paid internships, externships, and jobs, which are required for all students in your program. That's the first option. 2, required for a credit-bearing course that will count towards your degree. And 3, part of an established cooperative educational agreement between your department and employer. This is what I said about Metcalf internships. It would be CPT. They're a lot easier to get because they're affiliated with your university. That's basically it. That's all I really wanted to cover. I tried to give you the little condensed spiel version, and I hope this was helpful. If you would like me to go deeper into finances, like credit cards and whatever, let me know. But I thought I'd put this out there first for all of our incoming first year students who are coming to the US. This is everything you need to know. Sometimes it may not feel like it, but you are super welcome here. At least I welcome you here, and I hope you have a good time. Bye!